The fabric of international relations is often woven with the threads of mutual benefits, historical ties, and occasionally stark warnings. Recent developments in India-Canada relations present a vivid tableau of this complex interplay. At the heart of this evolving narrative is a stern warning from India's External Affairs Minister, Jaishankar, which evokes the timeless axiom of Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This scenario unfolds in the context of a diplomatic spat triggered by certain events that have strained the ties between these two nations. As we delve deeper into the details, it becomes apparent that this isn't just about bilateral disagreements, but also about the principles that govern international relations today. Understanding the nuances of this situation requires a look back at the events that served as a catalyst, the historical context of the bilateral relations, and the significant reactions from both sides. This exploration not only sheds light on the immediate tensions, but also sets the stage for the broader implications for global diplomacy. The immediate trigger for the recent diplomatic flare-up was the arrest in Canada of individuals accused of the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Sikh separatist leader living in Canada, who was long wanted by India. This incident swiftly escalated into a broader political controversy, with Canada hinting at possible links between the accused and Indian governmental agencies, a claim vehemently denied by India. In response, Minister Jaishankar's remarks captured global attention. He indirectly referenced Newton's third law, suggesting that diplomatic actions are not isolated incidents, but provoke reactions. This analogy was not just a defense of India's stance, but a veiled warning against what India perceived as unfounded allegations and interference in its internal matters. The implications of Jaishankar's comments are profound, extending beyond the immediate bilateral context. They signal a harsher tone in diplomacy, possibly indicating a shift in India's approach to international criticisms and allegations. This moment could be a turning point, marking a more assertive stance in India's foreign policy narrative. The relationship between India and Canada has been a roller coaster ride of highs and lows, influenced by a complex mesh of cultural ties, economic partnerships, and political disagreements. Historically, both countries have benefited from robust trade relations and a vibrant exchange of cultural and educational resources, owing to a significant Indian diaspora in Canada. However, the political landscape has been periodically marked by tension, particularly over issues related to the Sikh diaspora in Canada, some of whom have advocated for Khalistan, a separate Sikh state. India has often accused Canada of harboring extremists, which has been a point of contention. On the other hand, Canada has raised concerns about human rights and the treatment of minorities in India. These underlying tensions have occasionally erupted into diplomatic spats, but the current scenario is particularly significant. It underscores not only long-standing issues, but also the potential for these disputes to affect broader aspects of bilateral relations, including trade and strategic cooperation. Newton in diplomacy. Jaishankar's stark warning. Jaishankar's reference to Newton's third law in the context of diplomacy was not merely rhetorical. It served as a reminder that actions in international relations carry weight and provoke counteractions. This principle, while simple in physics, acquires complex dimensions in the diplomatic arena, where multiple factors and consequences intertwine. The minister's warning is a stark call to mind the interconnectedness and the inevitable repercussions of diplomatic decisions. It suggests a shift towards a more reciprocal approach in India's foreign policy, where responses will be calibrated based on the actions of other nations. This could lead to a more assertive and perhaps contentious international posture from India. Such a stance is indicative of India's growing confidence on the global stage. As the country becomes more central in international affairs, its diplomatic strategies evolve. The application of Newton's law metaphorically underscores a more scientific, calculated approach to diplomacy, one that considers the equal and opposite reactions to every diplomatic action. Canada's perspective, concerns, and reactions. From Canada's perspective, the situation is equally complex. The Canadian government's accusations stem from a genuine concern for national sovereignty and the integrity of its legal processes. Canada prides itself on its legal system and its role as a safe haven for political refugees and dissidents, which often puts it at odds with countries questioning its decisions. Canadian officials have expressed disappointment over India's stern reaction, emphasizing the need for cooperation rather than confrontation. They argue for a balanced approach that respects both nations' sovereignty while addressing mutual concerns transparently and constructively. Moreover, Canada's large Indian diaspora plays a significant role in shaping its foreign policy towards India. The diaspora's influence is double-edged, providing both a bridge and a battleground for cultural and political issues, thus making the diplomatic dance between Canada and India even more intricate and sensitive. Future pathways. Navigating troubled waters. Looking forward, the trajectory of India-Canada relations appears to be at a critical juncture. The current tensions could either lead to a recalibration of diplomatic engagements or escalate into more profound disagreements. The outcome largely depends on how both nations manage the delicate balance of addressing domestic pressures while maintaining international relations. There is potential for a constructive dialogue that could pave the way for resolving underlying issues and strengthening bilateral ties. Such an approach would require both countries to engage in open, transparent communication and a willingness to understand and accommodate each other's perspectives and legal frameworks. However, the alternative could be a cooling of relations, impacting not just bilateral engagements but also their interactions in international forums like the United Nations. This scenario underscores the necessity for skilled diplomacy and strategic foresight in navigating the complex currents of international relations. Conclusion. Implications for global diplomacy. The unfolding drama between India and Canada is more than just a bilateral spat. It is a case study in the complexities of modern diplomacy. Jaishankar's invocation of Newton's law in this context highlights the intricate dance of cause and effect in international relations. This scenario underscores the growing importance of strategic, calculated responses in global diplomacy, where every action can lead to significant geopolitical repercussions. As nations continue to navigate these turbulent diplomatic waters, the principles highlighted in this dispute will likely resonate in other international conflicts and collaborations. The future of global diplomacy may well depend on how nations learn from instances like these, balancing assertiveness with cooperation to foster a more stable and interconnected world. In conclusion, while the immediate future of India-Canada relations hangs in the balance, the broader implications for global diplomacy are profound. The resolution of this conflict could set a precedent for how nations address and resolve international disputes marked by deep-rooted political and cultural complexities. As we delve deeper into the India-Canada diplomatic fray, it becomes crucial to explore potential resolutions and the steps that might lead towards a harmonious conclusion. Both nations stand at a crossroads, where diplomatic finesse and mutual respect could pave the way for not only mending fences, but also strengthening ties for future cooperation. Experts suggest a series of bilateral talks, possibly mediated by an international body, to address the underlying issues transparently and constructively. These discussions could focus on enhancing trade relations, security cooperation, and cultural exchanges, which in turn might alleviate political tensions. Additionally, fostering people-to-people connections through educational and technological partnerships could play a pivotal role in building trust and understanding between the two nations. As the global community watches closely, the outcome of these diplomatic efforts could serve as a blueprint for resolving similar international disputes. A successful resolution could not only repair the rift between India and Canada, but also reinforce the role of diplomacy in achieving sustainable peace and cooperation in an increasingly interconnected world.